Welcome back, everyone. We're here to learn more fallacies. I hope you're having fun so far, and these should seem pretty intuitive or pretty obvious. You just may not have had a name for them before. So fallacies of weak induction are poor arguments that basically have little or no evidence in the inferences they make. So people take really weak evidence or no evidence at all, yet make conclusions, and they can often fool you. How can this pair of socks equal money? Keep that in mind as we go forward. Why would socks equal money? The types of fallacies in weak induction can be hasty generalizations, fallacies of ignorance, false cause, weak analogies, slippery slopes, or unqualified authorities. And if you'll remember back a couple of modules ago, we had actual arguments that involved these things. Qualified authorities, actual cause and effect, or causal effect inferences, generalization from specific examples to a more broad conclusion about the characteristics of things. Analogies. We can have strong and good inductive arguments with these things, but when we have really weak ones, very little evidence, and poor explanations, then we have fallacies. I'm going to give you some examples. So look here and remind yourselves what induction is doing. All inductive arguments result in probabilities or likelihoods and not certainty. So we can never know for sure definitively like we can with deduction. I'm just reminding you of that because basically what the fallacies are doing in inductive arguments is saying not only is this not certain, but it's almost not at all probable. Okay, here's how that happens. Fallacies of weak induction make the certainty even less certainty, less probable, or at times not at all likely. That's because the evidence is so weak or non-existent. Remember from a few modules ago, this example of a generalization. I looked at some characteristics of a group and I analyzed those and I thought about them for a while, and I made a generalization about a larger group. Like maybe sheeps like to eat grass because I saw a bunch of them doing it several days in a row. Generalizations can be strong and they're really helpful. But weak generalizations, those that are done too hastily or quickly, go from specific to too broad. Meaning you say, oh, I saw this instance once or twice, and now I'm going to say the whole population acts this way. This is a really important fallacy because many people commit the fallacy, and it results in certain things like stereotypes, racial profiling, gender bias. Okay, so keep that in mind. If I say something like, I saw one woman driver turn too fast yesterday, and then I saw another woman driver cut me off today, and I can conclude that most women are probably driving too fast or not safe. This is a hasty generalization. I've gone from two specific examples to a gigantically broad overgeneralization, a hasty generalization. Again, I am certain that many of you have seen, heard, or even done this, committed this fallacy. So again, it goes from specific to broad. This is an example we had a couple of modules ago where it was a good generalization. We're trying to figure out what happens, and this is how a lot of research works. We observe things in nature or in research with people, and then we try to extrapolate. We try to make some sort of explanation for why things happen. But if we don't do that well, we're led to commit the hasty generalization, just as my example of women drivers presented. Fallacy of ignorance. If we say there's no evidence, but we can still conclude something because there's no proof otherwise, that's a fallacy of ignorance. We're not calling someone ignorant. We're saying because there is no proof, I can do something else. Let me show you what I mean. If I say that my smoke shop just started carrying a new vape pen, and I know nothing about it, but I'm going to assume, because there's no information to tell me otherwise, that it's completely healthy, I'm committing a fallacy of ignorance. This was done many years ago when vaping just came on the scene. And we still do this today. If we say, oh, there's no evidence to show me this is bad, so I'm going to keep doing it. That's really not the way to go. The way to overcome the fallacy of ignorance just is to say, I don't know, we just don't have the information yet. But often people commit this fallacy instead. Okay, if I say I'm going to buy that pen and smoke all day with it because there's no research to show that it's bad, shame on me. I am committing a fallacy. Remember the causal inference. That means basically something that I see happening results in a relationship, a connection, or some correlation, an outcome, like the flowers in the sun. But if we have faulty causal inference, that can produce other results. So I'm just showing you these slides again from the good causal inference or a strong causal inference. But think about how that can go wrong. A false cause is a causal inference that's gone wrong. If I say I see ducks all the time when we have rain, and as soon as the rain starts, the ducks come out, and then I conclude that ducks cause rain, that's a false cause. Ducks don't cause rain. Ducks might come out when it's raining or there's lots of water because they like water, but ducks do not cause rain. And sometimes we make these mistakes, or people make them on purpose to try to fool us. And we all know what causes rain, clouds and precipitation, but maybe years ago we didn't. And so this might have been thinking that was going on. Another false cause could be you mistakenly think that something you do is lucky. False cause also results in a lot of superstition. So say that you wear these socks every day and you go to the Padres game every day, and then the Padres are winning, and you come home and you're like, wow, it's these socks. Every time I wear these socks, my favorite baseball team, the Padres, win. That's a false cause fallacy. Your socks are not causing the team to win. We'd like to think that, wouldn't we? Maybe you go and you buy a lottery ticket and you rub it and you kiss it and you blow on it and you say a prayer. If you win, in logic and critical thinking, it's not because of that coincidence of you saying a prayer or wearing your lucky socks. It's because your numbers came up and simply nothing else. So that's an example, a couple of examples of false cause. Then remember, we have arguments from analogy. We can also have weak analogies. This analogy that I gave you a couple of modules ago, we talked about the mushrooms in the store. But we can't conclude without more evidence that they are safe to eat. So if I say, just because they look the same as the ones that I found in the store, I cannot assume that they will be healthy for me. In fact, they might kill me. Certain mushrooms that you find out in the field may kill you. So that's another reason why it's important to pay attention to critical thinking and not fall for these sorts of fallacies. Another important one is slippery slope. The fallacy of slippery slope occurs when someone says it's kind of like a false cause, but then a chain of events, horrific things will happen that are disastrous. Let me give you an example. One fallacy of slippery slope says, if we allow women to use birth control, then what's going to happen? They'll never have kids. Women not having kids means the entire population of humans will dwindle. Dwindle means decrease, right? Then the whole human species will become extinct. For that reason, we must ban birth control. This might seem ridiculous. It's meant to, but a slippery slope fallacy should be obvious. When someone says there's a chain of events that's quite unlikely, you might be faced with a slippery slope. So keep that in mind as well. And then the last thing we talked about was argument from authority. There are lots of good arguments from authority, and we should go to authorities to help us. But sometimes we can go to unqualified authorities. So if I have a pain in my back and I ask my dentist what I should do, and I conclude that her advice is correct, I am committing the fallacy of unqualified authority. So watch out for those as well. I hope that you're having fun. I hope this is fairly easy and straightforward. We'll talk more soon. Have a great week.